Hello friends, welcome back. Today we'll see what is use context hook in React. So basically there are multiple ways of managing state into our React application. There is Redux, there is use state, there is use context. Okay, so whenever you want to manage some data in a big application and there is a complex logic on top of that. So we use Redux normally when we want to handle the state of the component within that component itself. Then we use the use state, and when we want to do some small scale applications where we want to handle the state of the components and we want to share the data between multiple components, we use the use. Let's see the use context now. So what is context basically? So context is a way to manage state globally. So in our application we can manage state globally, so we can create a context and we can do that. So you context with the use state can can help us to manage the state between nested components. So when we want to share the data between nested components, we can use the use context. Okay. Now let's see, if you want to manage the state within a one particular component, that we use state. What if you want to pass the data from one parent component to child component? And how do we do that? We do that using the props. Then what if there is another child component, the parent child, the third component? And how we will pass the data from first, second, and third? So what we have to do is, like, normally we do the props trailing we want to do, we need to do. And what if there is one more component after, and so on? How we will handle this kind of scenarios? So this kind of scenarios can be handled through the context. So without wasting any time, let's get started. Here I have a basic application, React application. Here I'm going to create a component. So this is a basic component, app component, where I have just a hello world, and I will be creating one component, child component. So let's add it a component. So what we'll do, we'll say new file from here and say first component dot tsx, and then let's start writing const. So I'll be writing the arrow function over here, first component. Okay, and just return some JSX code. I'll say h1 maybe, and I will say first component. And here we will say I'll be creating a interface so that I can just share export interface I component props maybe. Okay, here I'll just take name. So what we are going to do, we will be passing a name from the parent component that we'll access over here and display it. So I'll say there's a string. Okay, I'll take the props as I component props, and I'll say this is an I'll say paragraph maybe, or maybe h1 only. Hello props dot name. Okay, and then from here I'll let's create a name, comma, set name, use state hook, will pass type as string, and here I'll say Chetan. I need to import this. So I'll say update import from React, and then what we will do, just we need to pass. Let's write first component. I need to, okay, I not able to import it, so it's problem here. I'll need to just export default first component. Okay, so now here we have the first component, which is the default export over here in this file, and I will be exporting this component over here. Now when I try to press Control dot in the Visual Studio Code, this is a shortcut to import. Okay, add import from component, and then I will say name equals to name, and if you are maybe confused, then I will say first name. Okay, likewise I'm passing, and here I've used that name. This is, let's just run the application. Now it's working. First component, that hello Chetan. Okay, okay. Now I'm back to my Visual Studio Code, and now what if I need to create, and if I want to create a one more component over here, let's say second component dot tsx, and same, I'll just, maybe I'll just copy this thing. I'll say second component, and here I will say second component. Okay, now what? Sorry, I need to include over here the second component I am calling from the first component. Okay, and here I'll say I need to pass this props dot name again. Now it's again there. Here in the second component, I will be just like changing to h1 to h2. Okay, now this is how we are calling from the second component. This will be keep on. This is called prop drilling, and we need to like we need to keep on drilling these things. So how we can avoid that using the context? So what I'll do, I will just create a context over here in the app.tsx. Uh, I'll say const user context equals to create context. I'll import from the React. Okay, the create context comes in from the React. And now here here I need to pass as the default value. Maybe I can change it anywhere in. Okay, now what I have to do, I'll say user context dot provider, and here I need to pass value equals to whatever the value I will pass in. Let's just copy this into this. Okay. Now here I don't need to pass this name over here. Okay. I'll just change over here now. I'll just remove this props itself. remove from the second component also, which okay. Now in the first component, what I need to do is like I need to pass user context. So now here this is not accessible, so we are missing something over here. Here we need to just say export. So this context will be accessible outside. We are exporting it. Now we'll say const user equals to, and this use context is imported from the React, and this user context will be imported from the app file, app.tsx. Okay, so we need to just pass it over here, and we just don't need to pass this name anymore as we have removed the property. And we'll also check the second component. Okay, here also we need to do the same thing. Just copy this one, just semicolon I've missed. I'll just copy this one. I'll just add it over here, and just add a port now. Update import from React and update import from the app file. Now we can say same thing. Okay. Now just check again. Yeah, it's still accessible. So that's how the context works. We can pass on the values to using the context. So this value will be accessible to that context, to our user context. Wherever we try to access the value from the user context, we get the value. Okay. Yeah, that's it for today, and thank you.